Number 1. The last-minute ask. 11:47 p.m. You need something, you've needed it for weeks, and right now, right at the edge of too late, you finally say it out loud. Not earlier, not when there was time, not when the ask would have been easy, clean, receivable. Now. And there's this brief moment where you almost convince yourself this was accidental, that you just got busy, that you forgot, but your body knows. There's a tightness across the chest when you send that message. Not relief, not hope, something closer to bracing. Because some part of you already calculated the odds. You asked when the person was tired or stressed or 3 days deep into their own crisis. You picked the moment with the least available space for a yes, and when they can't show up, when the timing just doesn't work, something almost settles inside you. A familiar weight returning to its shelf. You'll tell yourself you tried. You did. Kind of. But what made 11:47 feel safer than noon? Number 2. The buried ask. Here's where it shifts, because sometimes you don't even wait for the wrong moment. You just make the ask, unrecognizable. You wrap it in a joke. You slip it under 3 layers of, I'm fine, just wondering if... You mention it once, casually, then never again. You're in a conversation, nodding, smiling, and somewhere in there you said the real thing. But so quietly, so sideways, that no one could have caught it unless they were already looking for it. The jaw stays tight, the shoulders don't drop. You leave having technically asked and practically said nothing. And this is the part people miss. If they catch it, if someone actually hears it and responds, you almost feel annoyed. Exposed, like they were somewhere they weren't supposed to be. Wait, that's worth sitting with. Why would being heard feel like a violation? Because the buried ask was never designed to land. It was designed to disappear. And if it disappears, you get to keep something intact, something we haven't named yet. The burial isn't carelessness, it's precision. Number 3. The self-sufficient persona. Built a long time ago, maybe you had to. Maybe no one came when you called, so you stopped calling. And then one day, without a ceremony, without a decision, you became the person who doesn't need. People know you this way now. The one who handles it. The one who figures it out. The one you call when you're the one struggling. You sit across from someone who loves you. They ask if you're okay, and something, fast, reflexive, almost muscular, says yes before you've even decided to answer. The chest barely moves. The smile is the right shape. And you believe it actually, for a second. Because the persona is worn in now. It fits. But underneath, quietly, almost imperceptibly, something is starving, not for dramatic rescue, not for someone to fix it. Just to be seen carrying something heavy without having to perform the weight first. They'd help, probably, if you let them see it. But you won't, because this version of you is the only one that ever felt solid. And fortresses aren't just built for comfort. Number 4. The Competence Fortress. That flare in the sternum when you know the answer before anyone else does. That small private relief when someone turns to you. It doesn't feel like ego. It feels like proof. Proof that you belong. That your place isn't accidental. That necessary people don't get left. Somewhere along the way, competence stopped being a skill and became load-bearing. Like if you stopped being the one who knew what to do, something structural would shift. Relationships, trust. The version of you that people chose to keep. So you over-prepare, you master things. You walk into rooms already 3 steps ahead, and people lean on that. They come to you. The leaning feels like safety, but here's where it breaks down. You're in a meeting, stuck on something real, and the throat tightens even thinking about saying it out loud. Because asking means the image cracks. It means you're no longer the answer. You're the problem. And if you're the problem, what exactly are you offering? The fortress was never really about being good at things. Something's been wrong with this math for years. Number 5. The silent test. Almost no one catches themselves doing this one. You don't ask, but you watch. You notice who offers, who checks in without prompting, who sees the exhaustion and says something versus who breezes past. You're keeping score, except you never told anyone the rules of the game. Someone doesn't reach out during the week you were clearly struggling. They didn't know how bad it was because you didn't say. But that doesn't change what the silence costs them in your ledger. You're at dinner, quieter than usual. Part of you is waiting, not demanding, never out loud, just waiting to see if anyone notices. The stomach tightens with every passing minute that no one does. When they don't pass the test, something old confirms itself. See, you have to manage this alone. But here's what you're not catching. You wrote the test in invisible ink. They failed rules they never knew existed. And that failure becomes evidence for a conclusion you already held before you sat down. The test was never really about them, and what it was actually measuring. Number 6. The Martyr's Ledger. Running a tab you never show anyone, every sacrifice logged, every unacknowledged effort noted. You give, consistently, generously, often at real cost to yourself. You show up when no one asked. You remember the details, carry the invisible weight, and you do not ask for the same in return. This feels like virtue. Maybe it is, partly, but there's also a quiet transaction happening underneath it. Line by line, a case is being built, not consciously, not with a spreadsheet. But the body keeps the records. Someone at the table gets thanked for something you did first, and the heat rises behind the eyes, fast and quiet, before you've decided to feel it. That jaw that locks when the favor doesn't come back. The low-grade resentment surfacing without warning. You're doing everything right and getting nothing back, except you never actually asked for anything back. You made that impossible, because if you ask and they give, the ledger resets. You're no longer the one who carries more. You're just someone who needed something and got it. And somehow, that's the position that scares you most. The ledger isn't about fairness, it's a door you bolt from the inside. Number 7. The Architecture of Impossibility. Stop for a second and look at the full shape of this. You ask too late, you ask sideways. You perform self-sufficiency so completely that need becomes invisible. You build your worth on competence, so asking cracks the foundation. You run silent tests no one can pass. You give constantly and receive nothing and call that safety. Every single piece of this, every layer, is doing the same job. It is making sure that real help cannot reach you. Not because you don't want it. The body, that ache in the throat, the exhaustion behind the eyes, that's real want, that's genuine. But you have built a system, a precise, almost elegant system whose entire function is to guarantee the answer is no. Ask at 11:47. Bury it in a joke. Never show the need clearly. Set the test in invisible ink. Fill the ledger to overflowing. And then, when it doesn't work, point at the outcome as proof. See, people don't show up. Help doesn't actually come. The architecture generates the evidence it needs to keep existing. This is not self-sabotage. That word is too small. This is survival logic. And what it's protecting, what all of it has been protecting from the very beginning, you haven't been ready for. Until now. Number 8. The threat of gratitude. Actually, look closer. Slow down here, because this isn't about fear of rejection. You've been telling yourself that story maybe. But rejection isn't what the system is really built to avoid. Think about what would actually happen if it worked. If you asked clearly, at the right moment, directly, and they said yes. And they showed up, and the help was real, and warm, and enough. What would that mean? No. Wait. Feel that for a second, not the relief. What's underneath the relief? It would mean you were worth showing up for. It would mean you didn't have to earn every room you ever stood in. It would mean the story you've been carrying might have been wrong. And that is the most dangerous thing imaginable, because that story is old. Written when you were very small, by something that happened or didn't happen, by someone who came or didn't come. You organized your entire self around its truth, your competence, your silence, your ledger. All of it built to confirm, I manage alone because that is what I am. If real help arrives, the story breaks, and you don't know who you are without it. That is what the architecture is protecting, not from rejection, from the devastation of being loved anyway. You've spent years perfecting a system that keeps help just out of reach. And you built it for reasons that made sense once, but you are not that small anymore. The system can be unlearned. Not all at once, but it can. One clear ask, one real moment. That's where it starts.